Greg Palast drops by to tell, if you live in California, what you need to know about Election Day tomorrow, and it even applies today, early voting. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel. On the line with us is our old buddy Greg Palast of, gregpalast.com and the investigative reporter and writing for The Guardian and everything else. Hey, Greg, welcome back to the program.
Hey, glad to be with you, Tom. It's an important day, and we got a big story coming out in The Guardian.
Okay, so tell us about it.
Well, it looks like California's very, very strange system of voting could shaft Bernie Sanders out of 500,000 votes, and by the way, Mike Bloomberg out of 1/3 votes, by rules set up by the Democratic National Committee in California and enforced by Alex Padilla, who is campaigning hard for Joe Biden. So the way that the California voting system is set up in the primaries here is going to really disqualify a whole lot of votes by Sanders and some by Bloomberg as well.
How do you disqualify voters for I get it where, for example, if you didn't pick a party, or I guess there isn't it, if you didn't pick a party, you'll get a ballot that doesn't have the presidential candidate on it,
Yes. Okay. Here's the problem. We have 5 million California residents who register as independents. That is what they call here NPP, no party preference.
Right. Thank you.
Now, if you register as no party preference, now remember, it turns out about 86% of these people, about 57%, want to vote in the Democratic primary, which is their right by law. That is, if you're an independent, you can vote in the Democratic Party. But good luck trying. So.
That's because if you get a ballot by mail, your ballot doesn't have the primary on it. It doesn't have Democratic or Republican candidates. So my understanding from our conversations in Los Angeles 2 weekends ago is that what you have to do is bring that ballot with you to the polls, and then right there, turn that ballot in and unmarked, and say, I want to get rid of this, and I want to register as a Democrat right now so I can vote in the Democratic primary. Isn't that
There's
right?
two things you can do. You can do today in early voting, or tomorrow on official election day. And can you see these two ballots? One says Democratic on it, official Democratic ballot.
Right.
And the other says, here it is. Democratic ballot. And then the other one says Democratic crossover ballot. So here's what you have to do. You have to go in and take your NPB ballot, if you're one of the 4 million who got that ballot without any of the presidential candidates, and we know most of you want to vote in the Democratic primary, according to the polls in California. Take in your NPP ballot, include the envelope, and ask for the Democratic crossover ballot. Now, here's the weird thing, Tom. According to Secretary of State Padilla, the word has gone out to all poll workers that unless you know the magic word crossover ballot, they can't give you the crossover ballot. They can't give you the Democratic Party ballot. Now, again, if you're an independent voter, there are 5 million of you, 4 million of you got the ballot without any
I get all this, Greg, but I don't see how this, screws Bernie any more than it does Joe Biden.
Oh, plenty, because it turns out that the Bernie is gigantically ahead by at least 2-1 over Joe Biden among independent voters who want to vote in the Democratic Party.
I see.
It also shafts, frankly, Mike Bloomberg out of about 300,000 votes, they'll figure, by independents who want to vote for Bloomberg, much less than Bernie. This is because young people, especially students, tend to register without a party preference. Same with Latinos, these are the heavy Bernie. This is the heavy Bernie demographic. It's the young people and Latino voters, Latinx voters, and we figure Bernie will lose about 553,000 votes this way. You have to understand, according to the key pollsters, which is like Political Data Inc., which does the polling for both Democrats and Republicans, most people really, truly, who are independent, really want to vote in the Democratic primary, but don't know how. They don't know how to change that ballot for one with the candidates on them, and they don't know. They don't even know that they have the right to do that. They get this ballot without the candidates. They go, "Where's Bernie?" And he ain't there. Right. So there's two ways. I want to repeat this. take in your NPP ballot into the polling station with the envelope and say, I want, and you got to use the magic word, I want a crossover Democratic ballot, because they won't tell you the word, they can't by law, crossover Democratic Party ballot, or say, I want to re-register today, which is one thing you can do for the first time in California. You can register for one day as a Democrat. And I'm not telling you to register as a Democrat, but if you want to vote in the Democratic primary and you're having problems, re-register on the spot as a Democrat for the day. It doesn't mean you have to vote whatever you want in the general, but it allows you the Democratic ballot today, only in California.
Is there going to be any effort to change this, Greg?
Well, no, because the Secretary of State, our little Catherine Harris, Brian Kemp, Alex Padilla, is campaigning for Joe Biden. You know, the party establishment.
Well, that's just right.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, you know what? Here's the problem. Why do we have elections officials, whether it's Brian Kemp, who's a Republican running for office, Catherine Harris, who ran the Bush campaign, why do we have partisan officials in charge of voting in America? This is like nuts. But whatever,
okay,
this is what we're stuck with. So you have to protect your own vote. I don't see it changing in California at all. The party is truly hostile to the 5 million voters who say, I want to vote in the Democratic primary, but I don't want to join the Democratic Party.
Right.
And so they're very hostile to that group. And frankly, if you really want to vote in the Democratic primary, your safest bet is simply to register as a Democrat.
Yes.
It doesn't require your Democratic vote, but it allows you a kind of easy way to get that full ballot.
Well, and I think you can actually make a case for closed primaries because, you know, if somebody, I mean, you know, being a member of the party and voting in the party's primaries it's like being a member of a club. I mean, you know, you have some loyalty to that club. You've put some effort into that club, or, you know, into that party. And you know, I remember in Michigan back in the 60s when the Republicans crossed over in the Democratic primary and voted for George Wallace and sent him to the Democratic, you know, I mean, he actually won Michigan in large part because of Republican crossover votes, because Michigan had open primaries. And
well, let's put it this way. If you want to pick the Democratic Party's candidate, you should be in the Democratic Party. But that's a philosophical issue. The practical issue is that if you want to vote in the Democratic primary in California, forget the urban myth that it's easy to vote in that primary if you're an independent. Today or tomorrow, you're going to have to re-register as a Democrat or bring in that physical no party preference ballot if you're saying, where is the presidential primary? By the way, in California, you do get the congressional races, the local races, the referenda, but millions, literally 3.7 million people were mailed ballots without the presidential candidates. Bring that into the polling station with the envelope. Say, I want, again, you have to have the magic word, crossover Democratic Party ballot, or re-register as a Democrat for the day.
Yeah.